Let's talk some sports, baby.
Taken by Iguodala. Iguodala to Curry. Back to Iguodala. Up for the layup. Oh, blocked by Jones.
And remember, make tomorrow better than today, and make today better than yesterday. And you know what we gonna do. We gonna holler at you until next time, baby.
All right, guys, go ahead and flip over to the NBA and a possible beef brewing between all-star teammates. The Athletic reported that the relationship between Utah Jazz center Rudy Gobert and guard Donovan Mitchell has become unsalvageable, according to a source close to the team. This comes in the wake of Gobert testing positive for the coronavirus, prompting the NBA to shut down the season. Gobert was then exposed for making light of the virus days before he actually tested positive. Mitchell will go on to test positive as well, but since both players have recovered. So, Jay, does Mitchell have a legitimate beef here, or do you think he should reconcile with Gobert?
I'm not gonna hold anything against Donovan Mitchell if he feels like he got a legitimate gripe, because I mean, based on the information that we have, I think it's reasonable to believe or assume that Mitchell could have caught this virus from Gobert. And if we recall, it's been a month ago. Gobert was in the press room, playing around, touching all the microphones, germing everything up, just making light of the whole situation at the time, which at the time in this country was not a big situation, if you recall. As a matter of fact, I think we had our own side conversations where we were like, is this really a thing? Like, are we gonna get hammered by it? We did not know. And at the time, you can check the tapes. I was very sympathetic immediately right after Gobert tested positive, because it was kind of ironic. You was the one messing around in public, and now you the one that's got it. And it was really Gobert's test that really shut down the NBA, and then it shut down the rest of the sports world we saw, and then it shut down the whole country, for crying out loud. So I really do. I sympathize with Gobert. I think we live in a culture nowadays where everything's a joke. I mean, I don't think anything is off limits. We have no shame as a society. I really believe that. So Gobert represents a whole lot of dudes, a whole lot of people in this country. What he did, there was people in their homes, at their jobs, just out and about, engaging in the type of activity that Gobert was acting in, as wrong as they may be, and as wrong as Gobert was. I'm not saying what he did was right. I'm just saying I have sympathy for him, because it could have been anybody. He was just a dude not smart enough to act that way on camera, and then you have the results afterwards. But when I look at Rudy Gobert and I look at this incident, yes, we know Donovan Mitchell tested positive the next day. So you have that. If Mitchell feels some type of way based off that, and he believes he got it from Gobert, and also we got to remember this. There were reports that came down pretty quick after those tests talking about Gobert carrying some of that attitude and some of that activity that he was showing in the press room. He was doing it in the locker room as well, touching everybody else's belongings and some of their stuff. So, I mean, I would be interested to know how the rest of the team feels. I really would. If there's other people on that team, maybe a Joe Ingles, maybe a Bogdanovich. What about Mike Conley? I like to hear from some of these guys to see what they feel about Rudy Gobert, because based on what all I've heard, Gobert he's a very nice guy. He's a really good player, and I don't believe there was any malicious intent of what he did. I just believe he was playing around. It was a mistake, his actions. And you remember very quickly after this occurred, he came out with an apology. It was the right thing to do. And I take him at his word with what he said. Now, I'm also going to say this in regards to the virus. From what I've seen and what I've read, this is a serious issue we're going through as a country. But if I told you that we're going to have a pandemic, and it's going to be running around in this country through all of our cities and all of our neighborhoods, and we're going to have a 98% recovery rate, I would accept that. I would think that that's pretty good. That's pretty good. So with that being said, and you can zoom on out from that, A lot of people are walking around with this and they asymptomatic. They don't show any symptoms. For all we know, Donovan Mitchell had this and he was carrying it around before Rudy Gobert even tested positive. We just don't know. Any of us, there's a lot of people perhaps in our age group, healthy, vibrant, fairly young, walking around with it, but with no symptoms. You just don't know. So I'm just operating under the assumption that Donovan Mitchell didn't catch a bad case of this. Now, if he did, that's a different matter. And Drink brought that up earlier. I think it's a very valid point. If he had a serious case of this and his life was really at risk, that's a different matter. But I'm operating on the assumption that was not the case. And with that being said, this was a month ago. And you got to – I know it's the NBA. I know players have a lot of pull. But in the grand scheme of things, I just feel like you got to get over some of this stuff eventually. I just feel like it's somewhat petty to hold on to this to this degree. And with that in mind, I'm not saying I necessarily side with Gobert, but I think with Donovan Mitchell, I think you just got to – I hate to use the phrase grow up because it's his health and well-being that we're talking about. But he's fine now from all accounts. That's where I'm at with this.
All right. So Jay unwrapped a lot there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to skim on what he said, and I'm going to hit on the point that you brought up, Cody, right before we got on here. If one got to leave, who would it be? All right. So the way I look at it is like this. With the facts that have been given to us, the bad part of this is this. Gobert handled it. He didn't handle it all that well. And if what the rumors we've been told is true, then yes, I think Donovan Mitchell definitely has a case here. You can't be sitting around here bull crapping, acting like a kid, thinking everything he funny, and then I get sick, and now you put my NBA career at risk. No, one of the blurry lines here is we don't know how sick Donovan Mitchell got, right? If we knew how sick he got, then that would make it more clear for us to give a more clear opinion. Because if he was hospital ridden, if he was stuck in a bed, well, you're damn right. I gotta listen. I might catch you out, and we might have to do something. Handle business in the streets when I get healthy.
That's gonna be tough with social distancing. But go ahead.
Hey, listen. Damn that 6 feet if I'm in the hospital sick because you want to clown around. But listen, if he was at home, quarantined, stay away from your family for 30 days or whatever the case might be, then what are we complaining about, Donovan? I think when I first heard this story, right, look, COVID-19 is a serious deal. But just like Jay said, was it something going on before this? Is it something going on with those two before this became a deal? We don't know. Maybe that's why it hit Donovan Mitchell so hard that now they're in a situation where they don't even want to reconcile. But I would tell Donovan Mitchell this. Yes, look, young brother, you do have a legitimate reason to be upset with Rudy Gobert. But I remind you this. Greatness lasts only this long. So if you go and you start pitching a fit and you start acting like I can't stand this guy, I don't want to be in the same locker room with this guy, I don't want to be on the same court with him, and you get Rudy Gobert traded, because I do think that's what's going to happen. If one had to go, it'd be Rudy Gobert. Listen, it's going to be a long time before you get another Rudy Gobert. Don't kid yourself. I think young players think they almost assume that, oh, man, so many good players in the NBA, you can get another so-and-so. You can get another so-and-so. You can get – no. You can get another great center. I'm not saying that. But do you get another great center that plays well off your skill set like Rudy Gobert? Rudy Gobert ain't out there doing this number. He ain't doing this number in the paint. Give me the ball. He ain't out here. He ain't Joel Embiid living at the three-point line and waiting for you to pass on the ball. He ain't doing that. He's playing his role. He's a defender first. He's a pick-and-roll player. And he's a rebound master. That's what he's doing. He letting you go out here, take as many shots as you want. Hey, keep taking them, Donovan. I'm just going to grab them off the rim and put them back. That type of continuity, that type of teamwork is why you can't be sitting here pitching a fit about something that's not worth doing. Because if you get rid of him, you could probably shut the door on the Utah Jazz as being Western Conference contenders. That's a wrap. And like I told you, Cody, before we started this, if the playoffs was to start and they in a 4-5 matchup with the Thunder, oh, that's a sweep. That's a sweep for the Thunder. I'm telling you that right now. That's a sweep because you cannot come out public and have your two best players nipping at each other like that, and it's unreconcilable. I don't want nothing to do with him. He played too much. And then you go against these hungry Chris Paul-led Thunder team with that bull crap. Oh, you're getting swept, buddy. I don't care. You're getting swept. And so I would just say, if he can reconcile this and get over it, he needs to. But hey, who am I to say that? I didn't get sick from it. I don't know what he went through. I don't know how this might have threatened his career or threatened his future. So maybe he has a legitimate gripe. Maybe he don't. But I would caution. Please do not think you could just go find another Rudy Gobert at your local Lowe's or your local Home Depot or whatever the case might be, because you won't. It's gonna take a while, and by then, how old will you be? You might be out of your prime by the next time you get a guy with as good as him without asking and begging for the ball every time you come down the court. So I'll say, hey man, keep that in mind.
Yeah, this whole story is interesting because, again, you have to consider a couple things. Number one, so far I don't think either Gobert or Mitchell have been public in saying, hey, that guy is bleep, bleep, and bleep. It's just, it was a source that The Athletic, which is a very reputable site. It's not like they're just TMZ or some crap like that. But so far, we don't really know exactly if they really are having this kind of beef, and I'm sure Mitchell's probably not happy with him. But again, like Jay said, number one, we don't know who exactly had it first. We know you can not have symptoms. Mitchell could have walked into a bathroom at the airport and went on a flight back from one of their games, and someone could have had it in there, and he could have got it. We don't know. The only way I would say you could truly blame Gobert in the sense yeah, you absolutely had a malicious intent was if he had tested positive and then was like, this virus is a joke, whatever, and was just going around doing what he was doing anyway. But obviously that came after or before he tested, and then it was like, oh crap, okay, now we gotta take it serious. So I think also too, it's important to note that neither of these guys have had this kind of history. They don't have this sort of diva, history where they can't get along and this and that. There's players that have that reputation. These guys are pretty quiet. Their heads on their shoulders. They don't strike me as players that would have that kind of grudge. So this could just be, a slow news day. Oh, well, we got to have something to talk about. Ooh, did you hear? There's no distractions. There's no games to distract people. So maybe they mention something and that gets ran with and telephone game gets played. And then by the time it gets to a reporter, it's nothing like what it was. But yeah, this would be a really, really weird thing to have to break up a really good all-star duo like them over something like this, where there really was no malicious intent. There was nothing even personal. I mean, Gobert could have gave it to anybody on the team, and I was looking at it while you guys were talking. From what I can tell and find, Mitchell had said about 6 days after he still didn't have any symptoms after he tested positive. And his Twitter almost every day has him either streaming something or talking. There was no mention of, oh man, feeling like crap from this. Right. So it's pretty safe to say he had little to no symptoms at all. Definitely didn't need to go to the hospital. So other than just having to hang out at his house, I don't know what he really lost in this situation. So you could be a little miffed at Gobert, but to break up a team over this, yeah, I don't think it's a lot to that. And I would agree that I think that if they do have to break it up, it's going to have to be Gobert, and that's going to be a huge loss for the Jazz.
I would say, it is easy for us to say that we're not NBA players that makes millions of dollars that probably feed a lot of people with our paychecks or whatever the case might be. So, like you said, if it was mild, I do agree he shouldn't have got that upset. But we don't know how serious he take his career, and like you said, it's just so much of the unknown here. That's why I say I do understand that if it went down the way the media tell us it went down, he does have a legitimate gripe. But like you said, if he was mild and he didn't have any symptoms, then look, young fella, let it go. Y'all got games to win. You got titles to contend for. That's Western Conference, not NBA. But you got titles to contend for nonetheless. Let's get this together.
Yeah, a couple extra points before we close it out. I like what Cody said about the history between these two guys. We haven't heard anything negative about really either one of these guys, much less any infighting or feud or anything like that. But I brought this up to Drink earlier. I'm of the mindset, one of the things I was looking at is when we're hearing about a fractured relationship that you can't repair. I was like, maybe there's some stuff we don't know that's happened in the past because, I mean, after all, it is Utah. I mean, it ain't like it's I don't know about the media. They just up there bustling and hustling and oh, yeah, we go to Utah, breaking news up. I don't know about it. I really don't. And also for the Utah Jazz as an organization, if this blows up and Gobert has to go, because it will be Gobert, that's just how it's going to go. When you look at Donovan Mitchell, he's a younger player. He plays the 2 guard. He's the scoring machine. And I think it's a shame because the Utah Jazz have done a really, really good job building this team. We talked about the moves they made in the offseason. I like the Mike Conley addition. I like getting Bogdanovich. I like the things they've done. The in-season move, getting Jordan Clarkson, has paid big dividends, got a big scoring punch off the bench. This is a really, really good team. They're not up there. They're not as good as the Lakers and the Clippers out west, but they're in that mix right below them. And to Drink's point about a playoff series with OKC, I don't know if it's a sweep, but before this, before this COVID-19 thing, you would say Utah would probably have a clear advantage. And with this kind of infighting, reportedly, it would make it a much more competitive series.